You ever think you really know someone? Like, not just day-to-day habits or favorite movies. I mean, know them. Their soul, their values, their limits. That was me, married to Melissa for 17 years. 3 kids. High school sweethearts. I thought I had the blueprint to her mind, her moods, her everything. Turns out, I didn't even have the table of contents. It all started 3 weeks ago. A Thursday. Seemed like any other day. Work, dinner, homework with the kids. Melissa came home a little quiet, but I chalked it up to stress. She worked in healthcare administration, stressful by default. The next morning, she packed a bag before I'd even made coffee. Said she had an overnight team-building event for work and would be back Saturday. Kissed the kids on the forehead, gave me a quick peck, and left. That was the last time I saw her. I called her that night. No answer. Texted. Nothing. By morning, the kids were asking where Mom was. I had no good answer, so I called her parents. They finally got back to me and said, "She's okay. She just needs space right now." Space. What kind of mom disappears without a word and lets her parents speak for her? I didn't sleep that night. Something in my gut was screaming that this wasn't about space. This wasn't burnout or a breakdown. This was something else. Over the next few days, I called her sister, her best friend, even the office. Nobody knew anything. Or if they did, they weren't talking. The girls, 11, 13, and 16, were wrecked. I tried to keep things normal. Made pancakes. Watched old cartoons with them. Answered every question with the same lie. Mom's okay. She just needs some time. Inside, I was unraveling. Then came Monday night. Melissa's coworker, who I barely knew, sent me a DM on Facebook. Just 5 words. "You deserve to know everything." Attached, a screenshot of Melissa and a man I didn't recognize, holding hands, at what looked like a dinner party. A timestamp from 2 years ago. 2 years. I messaged back instantly. "Who is that?" She replied, "That's Ryan. He worked with her. They were close." That's all it took. The pieces slammed into place. The late nights. The work retreats. The emotional distance I chalked up to exhaustion. I'd been living in a fog. A fog she created. And just like that, I realized I'd been sleeping beside a stranger for years. They say silence is golden. Whoever said that clearly never sat alone at 2 a.m., staring at a text thread that hadn't moved in 4 days, with the name of their wife at the top. Melissa still hadn't called. Still hadn't texted. Still hadn't sent so much as a smoke signal. And me? I was a mess. Not the Hollywood kind of mess, smashing lamps and screaming into the void. No, I was the quiet kind. The kind that folds laundry with shaky hands and rewatches security camera footage just to hear her voice saying, "See you later." My daughters were watching me like hawks. They knew something was off. Kids can smell lies better than bloodhounds. And mine. They were scared. Not of their mother disappearing. They didn't know the full truth yet. They were scared of me. Because Dad didn't crack jokes anymore. He didn't argue about screen time. He just existed. I finally called Melissa's dad again. It went about as well as you'd expect. "Jack," I said, "I'm not asking for details. But I need to hear from her. The kids need to. You know that, right?" There was a long pause. Then came a sigh that sounded like it had been aging in a barrel for decades. "She's going through something. You wouldn't understand." "Try me," I said. Another pause. Then, click. He hung up. I wasn't even angry. I just stared at the phone like it had betrayed me. The next night, I cracked. I sat on the edge of my bed, took a deep breath, and called the police. Nothing dramatic. Just a welfare check. When the officer called me back, he sounded like someone reading a script they'd used too many times. "She's safe. Says she doesn't want contact right now. That she needs space." That word again. Space. What is it about cheaters and astronauts? Always needing space. The officer sounded almost sorry for me. Like he'd seen this before. Maybe he had. That night, after the girls were asleep, I poured myself a drink, the first in months. I sat on the back porch and watched the moon, like some sad cliche from a country song. And I thought about how we got here. We weren't a perfect couple, but we had good bones. Built things together. Laughed, fought, made it work. And now she was just gone. But the kicker? I didn't even know who she left with. Not really. All I had was a name, Ryan, and a photo that looked like it was taken at some fancy fundraiser. He had that smug, cologne commercial look. You know the type. Probably called her babe and used the word synergy unironically. Part of me wanted to track him down. The other part? The other part just wanted to hear her voice again, even if it was just to say goodbye. But I wasn't gonna get that. Not yet. Because that night, something even worse happened. My middle daughter, Grace, came downstairs, holding her phone. "Dad, is Mom okay?" I swallowed hard. "Yeah, sweetie. She's just figuring things out." Grace stared at me for a long second. Then she asked, "Is she figuring them out with someone else?" I froze. She was 13. 13, and she already knew the shape of betrayal. I didn't answer. I couldn't. She just nodded, like I'd said enough by saying nothing. And that was the moment I realized. The silence wasn't just golden. It was radioactive, and it was poisoning all of us. By the end of that week, I had stopped checking my phone every few minutes. It wasn't some grand moment of healing or growth, more like numb resignation. You can only hit refresh so many times before your thumb gives up. And besides, ghosts don't text back. Melissa hadn't called. Not me. Not the girls. Not even a forwarded, "Hope school's going well" text. She was a fog. A memory on legs. A wedding ring-sized hole in the house. I had a plan, though. Sort of. Call it Operation Hold It Together. Get the girls to school. Feed them. Smile, even if it felt like my face would crack. Pretend like the woman who used to kiss me on the forehead every Sunday morning hadn't just vanished into thin air. And when that got too hard, I compartmentalized. Like a good little man raised in the Church of Repression. I thought about the garage needing insulation. About the leaves piling up. About what to make for dinner that didn't come out of a microwave. Anything but her. But she always found a way back in. It was little things. Her toothbrush still in the holder. Her scent on the throw blanket. Her favorite coffee mug, the one that said, "Wife, Mom, Boss," and made me wince now. One night, I made the mistake of watching a home video with the girls. They picked it, not me. It was from a beach trip last summer. Melissa was holding our youngest in one arm and a popsicle in the other. She was laughing. That deep, goofy laugh that used to make strangers turn and smile. And I just froze. Because the woman on that screen, she didn't look like someone planning to disappear. She looked happy. Alive. Like someone still invested. Maybe that's what hurt the most. Not just that she was gone, but that she faked it so damn well. Later that night, I found myself sitting in the driveway. Just sitting. No music. No podcast. No phone. Just me and the dashboard. I started thinking, what if she's in love? What if this wasn't just an affair, but the affair? The kind of run off into the sunset nonsense you see in Netflix dramas? God help me, part of me hoped it was. Because if this was just boredom, just impulse, then none of it meant anything. And that felt even worse. A couple days later, I got a call I wasn't expecting from Melissa's sister, Jenna. We weren't close. Civil, sure. She'd always been a bit icy, but polite. "Can we talk?" she said. I didn't ask questions. Just said sure. We met at a diner halfway between our houses. I'd been there before. They had good pie and bad lighting. She got straight to the point. "She's not okay," Jenna said. "Melissa." "Define not okay," I asked, trying to sound casual. My coffee was shaking in my hand. "She's grieving. The man she was seeing, he passed away. Heart attack." I blinked. "Wait, what?" 3 nights ago. It was sudden. She was with him. I felt like the floor moved. Not metaphorically. I actually reached for the table like I was about to fall. "She's been staying with our parents," Jenna went on. "Refusing to eat. Barely talking." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to feel sorry for her. The other part wanted to throw my coffee at the wall. "So what now?" I asked. "She wants to come back. She says she made a mistake. A mistake. For years. 3 daughters. A whole life, and it was a mistake." I looked out the window. Watched a truck back into a parking space. Watched a kid drop his milkshake. Anything but Jenna's face. "She doesn't get to come back, like it's a weekend trip," I said. "I know," Jenna replied. "But you need to talk to her. For you. For the girls." She handed me a folded piece of paper. It was Melissa's handwriting. Neat. Careful. Like she always wrote her grocery lists. I didn't open it. Not yet. That night, I sat in the living room while the girls slept upstairs. I poured a glass of water, stared at the ceiling, and finally read the letter. It wasn't long. She said she was sorry. That she'd made choices she couldn't take back. That she was scared, ashamed, and still loved me. That she didn't know how to ask for forgiveness because she wasn't sure she deserved it. And maybe she didn't. But here's the thing. Sometimes the pain doesn't come from the betrayal itself. It comes from realizing the person who betrayed you still knows how to break your heart, even from across the room, even on paper, and even when you swore you'd stopped loving them. It was Sunday evening when she came back. I heard the front door before I saw her. That soft creak that always meant she was trying not to wake the girls. Except this time, they weren't asleep. They were in their rooms, headphones on, walls up. I was on the couch, TV off, lights low, a glass of water in one hand, her letter in the other. She stood there for a moment, like she didn't know if she should enter her own home. "Hey," she said softly. I didn't move, just looked at her. She looked smaller. Same woman, same clothes, but somehow shrunken. Eyes swollen, like she hadn't slept. Her voice was strained, but she wasn't crying. "Not yet. I didn't know if you'd be here," she added. "Where else would I be?" I replied. Calm, flat, not cold, just tired. She stepped in, closing the door behind her like it might bite her on the way out. Then she took off her shoes, always with that annoying habit of stacking them beside the welcome mat, like nothing had changed. Except everything had. "You want to sit?" I asked, motioning toward the chair across from me. She hesitated, then nodded and lowered herself into it, hands folded in her lap like a kid waiting to be scolded. We sat like that for almost a full minute. No words. Just that awkward silence of two people who used to finish each other's sentences and now couldn't start one. "Are the girls okay?" she asked. "They're surviving," I said. Confused. Quiet. "They think you're just taking space." She looked down. "I didn't know how to. You didn't try," I cut in. "Let's not do the I meant to thing, okay?" Her eyes closed. A single tear slipped down her cheek. But still, she didn't cry. Not the way I'd cried. I reached into the drawer beside me and pulled out the letter she wrote. "Read it," I said, handing it back. I remember what I wrote." "Then say it." Out loud. She blinked. "Paul." "No," I said. "You said you love me, that you're ashamed, that you don't know how to ask for forgiveness. Say it to my face." "Not in ink." She swallowed hard. Her lip trembled. And then she did. Word for word. And for a second, just a second, I believed her. Then I remembered the 4 years she kept it secret. The time she kissed me goodnight with someone else's scent probably still on her skin. The way she disappeared without a single damn goodbye. "How long?" I asked. She didn't even pretend. "Almost 5 years. It started before COVID. Text first. Then it got physical. And the kids? Our vacations? Our anniversary dinners?" "I was trying to hold on to both," she said, voice barely audible. "I didn't know how to let go of either." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because that kind of logic was insane. "You didn't let go, Melissa. You just lied. You created a life inside a lie. And now that it's crumbling, you come crawling back." She flinched. I regretted the venom in my tone, but not the words. "I know I don't deserve anything," she said. "Not your kindness. Not your attention. But I want to try. For the girls. For us." She finally started to cry then. Not the soft kind. The full-on, shoulders shaking, breath-catching kind. But I didn't move. I sat there, watching the woman I once thought I'd grow old with crumble in front of me. And I didn't feel triumphant. I felt like I was watching someone dig her own grave with a spoon. "I'm going to file for divorce," I said finally. She froze. "But I need peace, Melissa. Not negotiations. Not second chances. Not therapy. Just peace." She wiped her face with the sleeve of her cardigan. "What about the girls? We'll figure it out. They need stability. We'll make a schedule. But they don't need to see us pretending." She nodded slowly, biting her bottom lip like she used to when she was scared. Then she asked the question I wasn't ready for. "Do you still love me?" I didn't answer right away, because the truth was yes. And also, no. I loved the version of her that sat with me on the kitchen floor eating ice cream after a long day. The one who kissed me in the rain. The one who sang to our daughters off-key just to make them laugh. But that version of her died. Somewhere between the lies and the absences and the late-night texts, she disappeared. "I don't know," I said. And that was the honest answer. She nodded, stood up, brushed off her pants. "Can I stay here tonight?" she asked. "No," I said gently. "Not tonight." She didn't fight it. Just walked to the door, picked up her shoes, and paused. "I'm sorry," she said again. This time, it sounded like she meant it. And then she left. And I sat there on the couch, holding that letter, knowing that it was the last piece of her I'd ever believe again. The morning after she left, again, the house was quiet. Too quiet. I woke up on the couch with a stiff neck, a dry mouth, and a sense of finality that felt heavy. Like gravity itself had doubled overnight. I didn't hear the girls stirring upstairs, but I knew they were awake. Kids know when something's broken, even if they don't say it out loud. I stood, stretched, and brewed coffee. Not because I needed it, but because it was the only thing I could do that made me feel remotely normal. Grind. Pour. Wait. Just long enough to think without completely unraveling. About 10 minutes later, my middle daughter, Ava, came down. She didn't say anything. Just stood there in the kitchen, staring at me like she was waiting for a signal. I handed her a mug of hot chocolate. She nodded. "Is Mom coming back?" she finally asked. My chest caved in a little. "Not to live here," I said. "But you'll still see her. Just not like before." She blinked, once, twice, then nodded, and walked out. That was it. No tears. No tantrum. Just quiet understanding, which somehow made it worse. Later that day, I told all 3 girls everything they needed to know and nothing they didn't. I told them we'd be okay. I told them the grown-up stuff wasn't their fault. I told them we were still a family, just not the same kind. They cried. We hugged. Then they put on a movie and curled up under a blanket like it was just another Saturday. I don't know if that's resilience or numbness. Maybe both. As for me, I was angry. Not the loud, violent kind. The dull, gnawing kind. The kind that sits behind your ribs and eats at you like termites in a house you didn't even know was rotting. But mixed in with the anger was something else. Grief. And not just for the marriage, for the version of myself that had trusted her, loved her without hesitation, believed in her. That man was gone, replaced by someone more cautious, more tired, and maybe a little colder. I didn't want to be bitter. I didn't want to be the guy who drags his pain into every room he walks into. But I'll be honest, it was tempting. Because bitterness feels powerful when you're powerless. So I called my friend Derek. Derek's the kind of guy who doesn't say much, but when he does, you listen. We've known each other since college. He's seen me drunk, broke, ecstatic, terrified, and now hollow. He picked up on the second ring. "You want to get a drink?" I asked. "No," he said. "But you need one. I'll meet you in an hour." We went to this dive bar downtown, nothing fancy. Just booths, dim lighting, and a bartender who doesn't ask questions. I told Derek everything. From the affair to the letter to the kitchen standoff. He didn't interrupt. Just listened. When I finished, he leaned back and said, "You did the right thing." "You sure?" I asked. "Because right now it feels like I've just lost everything." He shrugged. "Maybe. But sometimes losing the wrong person is the only way to get your life back." That hit me. Harder than I expected. Because deep down, I knew he was right. Melissa, my wife, my high school sweetheart, the mother of my kids, wasn't the same person I'd fallen in love with. And maybe I wasn't the same either. Maybe we'd both changed, just in different directions. I went home that night and started making changes. Nothing dramatic. Just small things. I deleted the shared calendar. Put her stuff in a box. Changed my phone background. Washed the sheets. Took the family photo down from the hallway. Replaced it with one of just me and the girls. Not out of spite. Just out of necessity. Because healing doesn't happen all at once. It happens inch by inch. And that night, I took the first step. Melissa texted me the next day. Just a simple message. "I understand. I'll give you space." I didn't reply. Not because I hated her, but because space was the only thing I had left to give. There's a weird kind of silence that settles in after the storm. Not the calm before kind. The aftermath kind. Where the only sound left is your own breath, and even that feels too loud. That's where I lived, day in, day out, for the next couple of weeks. Melissa stayed with her sister. I stayed in the house with the girls. We texted only when it involved the kids. There were no accusations. No apologies. Just logistics. And somehow that hurt more. Because after 17 years together, we had become a shared grocery list. I met with an attorney. Sat in a quiet office that smelled like fake lemon polish and waited for a woman in heels and glasses to walk me through how to end a marriage I never thought I'd lose. She was kind, clinical, but kind. She'd seen this story before, probably 100 times, but I hadn't. Not from this side. She handed me a folder with options, timelines, instructions. "If it stays uncontested," she said, "this can be clean." That word, clean, made me laugh under my breath. There was nothing clean about this. It was blood and splinters and regret. But I nodded anyway. I didn't tell Melissa about the papers right away. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I just needed to feel like I was steering the ship for once. Like something in this mess was mine to control. I kept the girls on a routine: school, homework, dinner, weekend hikes. I cooked more, cleaned more, made the house feel like our home, mine and theirs, not a place haunted by her perfume and ghosted promises. The funny thing? Life kept moving. It didn't ask me for permission. It didn't wait for me to be okay. It just moved. One night, I was folding laundry while Ava sat on the couch doing homework, and she looked up and said, "You know what, Dad? You're kind of good at this." I looked up. Good at what? Like, everything. House stuff. Being here. Just being a dad. I felt something in my chest crack open. Not pain this time. Not grief. Something closer to pride. I'd been so wrapped up in what I lost. I'd missed what I still had. 3 amazing kids. A chance to show them what it looks like to stand up after you've been knocked flat. And maybe, just maybe, the beginning of something better. That night, I took the divorce papers out of the drawer and signed them. Quietly. No ceremony. No closure. Just a ballpoint pen and a silent vow to never lose myself like that again. The next morning, I emailed Melissa. "There's a folder at the front desk with your name on it. We'll figure this out like adults." For the girls. She didn't reply for hours. When she did, it was short. "I understand. I'll sign." No fight. No plea. Just that. And I can't lie. Part of me hoped she'd say more. Something. Anything. But maybe the silence was the answer. Maybe when someone chooses not to fight for you, that is the fight. A few days later, I took a walk down by the lake near our house. There's this spot with a little overlook. Used to be where Melissa and I went when we needed to talk. I sat there alone, watched the water, listened to the birds. And for the first time since this whole thing blew up, I didn't feel like a victim. I felt like a man who lost something and was still standing. Not just surviving. Becoming. You know what they don't tell you? That moving on has nothing to do with being over it. It's about waking up and choosing not to bleed anymore, even if the wound still stings like hell. After Melissa signed the divorce papers, everything slowed down. Not in life. The logistics actually sped up. Court dates, mediators, financial disclosures. All that bureaucratic jazz. But emotionally, I entered a strange kind of stillness. I didn't cry anymore. Not in the shower. Not in the car. Not even when I passed our favorite coffee place and saw a couple kissing in the window. I just exhaled, like my body finally gave up trying to hold the pain. Melissa and I didn't talk outside of emails. And even those were dry, professional, lowercase, thank you, and okay. The same woman I once whispered dreams to now responded to shared custody schedules like a stranger. I wasn't angry anymore. I thought I would be. God knows I deserved to be. But I'd used up all that fuel. Now I was just tired. Tired of guessing why she did what she did. Tired of imagining hotel rooms and late-night text threads and all the things I'd never be able to unknow. But mostly, I was tired of not feeling like me. So I made a list. Yeah, like some midlife cliché straight out of a therapist's workbook. But it helped. I called it Things I Never Said. Things I never told her during our marriage. Or after. Things I never told myself, either. Here's a few. You stopped laughing at my jokes long before you stopped loving me. I felt invisible, long before I found proof. I would have forgiven you if you'd just told me the truth. I still love the way you say okay when you're trying not to cry. I hate that I still miss you. Writing those things down. It gutted me. But it cleared the air, too. And something surprising happened after that. I started dreaming again. Little dreams, not big ones. Like finally taking that trip to Colorado I kept putting off. Or repainting the upstairs room just because I liked the color, not because it matched her taste. Or buying new sheets. You'd be amazed how healing new sheets can be. One evening, I found myself at a local bookstore. Not for anything in particular. Just walking. I passed by a shelf labeled New Beginnings. I laughed. Out loud, like an idiot. But yeah, I guess that was me now. A man building something new out of what was left. That night, I went home and opened my email. There was a message from Melissa. Just one line. "I know I don't deserve it, but I hope you find peace." I didn't reply. Not because I hated her, but because I was finally learning how to hold silence and not fill it with pain. You know what caught me off guard the most? The mornings. Not the holidays. Not the anniversaries. Not even the first time I saw her name pop up in an old group text. No, it was mornings. Those first 10 seconds after waking up. That blurry space between dream and real. When you stretch out your arm and for a moment expect someone to be there. And then remember, she's not. And you lie there. Quiet. Still. Like the bed is too big and you're too small. That feeling stuck with me for a while. Like muscle memory. Even after Melissa had been gone for months, I'd still catch myself making 2 cups of coffee. Or reaching for the soy creamer she liked. Stupid little things like that. But eventually, very slowly, those habits faded. And I started doing something I hadn't done in years. I started living just for me. I took my girls hiking. Just us 3. One weekend, we climbed this overlook just outside town. Sun was going down. Everything was bathed in orange and gold. My youngest, Ellie, sat beside me and asked, "Are you happy, Dad?" I didn't lie. I said, "Not every day, but more than I used to be." She nodded like she understood. Maybe she did. Kids can read you better than you think. I'd like to say Melissa stayed away, that she gave me space. But that's not how real life works. Every now and then, she'd send something. A photo from a memory. A quote she thought I'd like. A message about how she saw a dog that looked like ours. They were never romantic, but they were always heavy. She was testing the water, seeing if I'd respond, if I'd open the door even a crack. I never did. Not out of spite, but because I knew where that road led, and I wasn't taking any more scenic routes back to pain. One Sunday afternoon, I ran into her at the grocery store. She was with her sister. We locked eyes for a second. That kind of glance that lasts way too long for something you can't say in public. She looked older. Not in a bad way. Just different. Like life had burned her, too. She didn't smile. Neither did I. But I did nod. Just a little. And she nodded back. We didn't speak. Didn't need to. Because in that moment, we both knew something very specific. We weren't us anymore. And we never would be again. No? Now I wake up and don't reach for anyone. Now I make 1 cup of coffee. Black. No soy. I bought a new couch. Got rid of the one we picked out together that always sank on our side. Painted the living room. Started cooking, real cooking, not just box dinners. I even started seeing someone. Casually. No pressure. Just dinners and laughter and the occasional walk along the river. She knows I'm not ready for anything big. And she's okay with that. Which, ironically, makes me want to stick around. Funny how that works. Every now and then, I still think about Melissa. Not with anger. Not even with sadness, most days. Just reflection. She was my whole world once. And now she's just a chapter. An important one. Yeah. One that taught me more than I ever wanted to learn. But a chapter, all the same. And me? I'm still writing. You ever notice how sometimes the most important things never actually get said? They hang in the air, between people, between years, like fog. You can't grab them. Can't cut through them. But you feel them. Heavy. Lingering. And that's how it was when Melissa asked to meet. Yeah. After all that time. It had been almost a year since the night I told her I wanted a divorce. Since I stood in that kitchen, barely holding myself together while she just looked at the floor. She hadn't pushed much after that. A few texts. One awkward phone call. But mostly, silence. Until one day, I got a message. It wasn't dramatic. Just, "If there's any part of you that would meet me for coffee, I'd like to talk." No pressure. No agenda. Just talk. I stared at that screen for a long time. And against my better judgment, I said yes. We met at this tiny place near the park. Middle of the afternoon. No crowd. Just us and the sound of a barista steaming milk like it was personal. She looked nervous. Wore that same cardigan she used to throw on during lazy Sundays. Her hands trembled a little. I think mine did too. "Thanks for coming," she said. "Didn't think I would," I replied. "Yeah, me neither." We didn't jump into it. Instead, we talked about the girls. School. Soccer games. How the dog we shared custody of now prefers sleeping at my house. Then came the quiet. The part where your heart starts racing, even though nobody's running. She said, eyes locked on her coffee cup. "I don't expect forgiveness. I know I don't get to ask for that." I stayed quiet. I don't even know if I'd forgive me if I were you. Still quiet. But I wanted to say it anyway. I'm sorry. For all of it. For what I did. And for what I broke. She finally looked up. Blue eyes. Tired. Honest. I nodded. Because the truth was, I'd waited so long to hear those words, I wasn't even sure what to do with them now. "I loved you," I said. "I know," she whispered. "I did too. I just didn't know how to be grateful for it until I lost it." That one stung. Because it was real. She told me how it happened. Not every detail. I didn't need a forensic report. Just the emotional map. When it started. Why she stayed. How she convinced herself I wouldn't notice. How she thought the fire had gone out, when really she just stopped tending it. I didn't cry. Not that time. But something cracked inside. And something else. Healed. Strange how both can happen at once. She asked me if I was seeing anyone. I said yes. She smiled, not with jealousy, but with a kind of wistful relief. I'm glad, she said. You deserve good things, Ryan. You too, I replied. And for the first time, I actually meant it. We didn't hug goodbye. Didn't promise to keep in touch. We just stood outside the cafe, a few feet apart. Take care of yourself, I said. You too. And then I walked away. Not because I hated her. Not because I didn't care. But because that was the healthiest thing I could do for both of us. Some people stay in your life. Others stay in your heart. Melissa? She's part of my story. But she's no longer the narrator. And for the first time in a long time. I'm okay with that. You'd think the end of a marriage would be loud. Screaming. Crying. Some dramatic walkout with bags and slamming doors. But mine? Mine ended in a coffee shop. In the space between a whispered, "Take care," and the sound of my footsteps walking away. No lawyers. No courtroom drama. No vengeance. Just a slow, clean exit from a life that used to be mine. And you know what? It was enough. The girls adjusted better than I expected. Kids are resilient like that, even when adults are falling apart. We talked. We processed. We cried, yeah, all of us. But they knew I wasn't leaving them. That even if their mom and I couldn't make it work, they still had a dad who showed up every damn day. That mattered. We built new routines. Saturday breakfasts. Movie nights with too much popcorn. Quiet rides to school where sometimes nobody spoke, but it still felt like connection. Home wasn't broken anymore. It just had a different shape. As for Melissa, she moved to a smaller place across town. Closer to her sister. Closer to work. We see each other occasionally, birthdays, parent-teacher nights, graduations. It's cordial. Sometimes even warm. But it's never gone back to what it was. And that's okay. She gave me 3 beautiful daughters, a lot of memories, and a reminder that love, when taken for granted, can slip right through your hands. I don't hate her, but I no longer carry her with me. No? I live simply. I've got a small place near the woods, a dog who thinks he owns the couch, and a morning routine that involves silence, coffee, and the kind of peace I never knew I needed. I run. I read. I spend time with my girls. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, I catch myself smiling for no reason at all. I even started dating again. Slowly. Carefully. No apps. No chasing. Just life doing what life does when you let it. And I'm not trying to replace anything. I'm just living. You know, people ask if I'd ever take Melissa back. If maybe, one day, we'd find our way back to each other. And I always say the same thing. Some chapters don't need sequels. They just need to end with dignity. Because not all love stories are meant to last forever. Some are meant to teach you. To break you open. To show you who you really are when the dust settles. I used to be a husband. Now I'm just me. And honestly, that might be the best version yet.